Stud Muffin 1986 here. Welcome back to World of Tanks Blitz and the channel, my friends. I was asked a little while ago, and I actually had this slip my mind. One of my subscribers had asked, Stud Muffin, what would you do different about the game? This was one I had to kind of stop and think about a little bit before just opening my mouth, because there's, I think, a lot of things that just instantly come to my mind and you just want to say and sometimes don't think about it. Maybe when you then think about it a little bit more, you're like, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of just one of those funny things. Anyway, there was actually a couple things that did come to my mind. I don't necessarily know if this is in the works or what it is. I doubt it. These are kind of just thoughts just fresh off the farm here. So one of the things that I did think of is, with wargaming coming out and selling all of these collectible or higher tier premium tanks to players with inadequate or just very little or maybe even no experience at all, is they'll buy these things and then from what I understand with the new matchmaker is, I guess in regards to performance overall, is you need to like prove yourself that you deserve to go into this boot camp matchmaking, and then you're there until you can prove otherwise, until you get out of it. I would just like to know, I guess, a little bit more of the specifics around how that works. I know that's not necessarily changing any sort of aspect about the game, but kind of leads me into what I was going to get to originally, which is this. So the first thing that came to my mind is, if you're going to sell higher tier premium or collectible tanks to players that don't have an adequate amount of experience to even be playing or even have any sort of track record, is to instantly put those players into the boot camp until they're able to prove otherwise, that they can play with that tank or have some kind of knowledge of knowing how to play with that type or tier, and then be put into normal games with normal players. I don't think that players that have any experience whatsoever and they purchase these, which I can see from a business standpoint. Wargaming's a business. They got to make money, so they're going to offer a product to anyone that is willing to buy or so forth. So, if it's healthy money-wise, great, but if you're having players just go in and flat-out purchase higher tier premium or collectible tanks than what they've grinded or proved, or have some kind of track record that they have somewhat of a knowledge of knowing how to play with that type or tier, then, in my opinion, put them in the boot camp matchmaking, give them some opportunities to learn at a lower level, to prove that they can just know how to play with the tank, get some experience with that type or tier, whatever it is, and then once they've met a certain threshold, put them into where the other players are. So that was just one thought that came to my mind. Another thought that came into my mind was, and once again, not a lot of thought on this one. I know there's been a lot of questions about matchmaking and a lot of different ideas, and there honestly a ton of interesting ideas. And I understand where a lot of the different ideas are coming from, and also why wargaming or some other YouTubers have said they also don't necessarily work. And this was one that I just actually kind of popped into my mind while I was thinking of just making this video. But I know that how they have said, look, you have this matchmaker, why don't you make it so that it matchmakes win rate percentages with players? And the problem with that was, then eventually everyone's win rate gets down about 50%. You can't really matchmake win rate percentages, and this is just from other YouTube videos and stuff I've seen. So, not so much, you know, knowledge from the muffin. So, anyway, basically, my thought is I think really what gets to players a lot is when they're putting forth their effort and they're doing their part, damage-wise or whatever it is, and they keep losing battle after battle after battle, losing multiple battles, and then you just get sick of it, and you either, you know, leave the game for a bit, come back, whatever it is. And it's frustrating, and I've been there. I've totally been there. I get it. Actually, more times than others. And honestly, you know, if you can't, like the win rate, I understand that, and maybe this isn't a whole lot different, but just if you have a player that meets an X amount or just a certain threshold that he is proving that he's doing his part in a game and he loses. So like, let's say he's a tier 10, he does X amount of damage, he's not AFK, you know, he's definitely doing his part, meeting his thresholds, his, you know, damage, you know, the amount of damage he does, etc., and he loses. Then in the next game, in my opinion, he should be put on the team with the slightly higher averages of win rates of players. And then once he wins a game, he gets put right back into the normal matchmaking. But until he wins a game, he'll always be put on the team with just whichever team has the slightly higher win rate. Now, not a lot of thought into that one, just kind of one that just popped in my head. There could very well be a lot of issues with that I'm not necessarily foreseeing just making this video right now. But, you know, if there's other players that aren't meeting those thresholds and they're just getting 0 damage and whatever, then they're kept in the same the same normal matchmaking system. If, you know, they're winning and all this stuff, or they're a really good player, great, they're kept in the normal same matchmaking system. But if you're like doing your part, doing your damage and playing effectively, and you're losing, and you're on a team that has definitely not done their part, doing like multiple zeros or whatever, then the next game you're put on the team that has whichever one averages out to have the slightly higher win rate across all of its players. The next thing I would add, and this is probably just me, but sometimes with how many tanks I have, I can get pretty indecisive about what to play. I don't know who else is with me on this one, but I would love just a button you can push that would just randomly pick a tank for you based on the conditions of the filters you've chosen. So if you're like, I want something tier 10, but I don't know what to pick, or I want something tier 8, whatever, I want a TD, whatever, and you just pick the random picker button, it'll just choose a tank for you and then put you in a game. I would love that. Sometimes I'm just like, man, I just wish I could have just something decide for me. I'll spend minutes just sitting there on my couch just trying to figure out what I want to play with. So I don't know if any of you guys have that issue. Anyway, couple thoughts. Just wanted to answer the question. Thank you guys so much. Love the comments, love the conversations happening through the videos. I love this game. I think it's excellent, even with like the different changes and things and the frustrations I deal with sometimes. This is hands down still my favorite game. Anyway, love you guys. Stud Muffin 1986 here. You guys stay cool and keep tanking.